This is Come On You Reds, the definitive Toronto FC podcast. It's really the only one you need to listen to. Gareth Wheeler alongside my main man, T. Dot, my brother from another. It is Toronto FC midfielder and now academy coach Terry Dunfield joining me for another week of TFC Talk. What's going on, Tell? Or
Good
T. Dot, or whatever you want to be called.
Good morning. Dad to be. How long now?
Buddy, I'm in Fergie time right now. When that baby comes, I'm going to be like Cristiano Ronaldo. I'm going to rip off my shirt, throw it in the air, and celebrate a winner. Because that's what that kid's going to be, Terry, a winner.
Go on. I learned something. I know this podcast is going to be good. I learned something cool yesterday. So when you're giving your team talk or you're communicating to your team, 55%. Okay, let me ask you first. So, body language, tone, and words. What would be your pie chart to that? What percentage does the team pick up on body language, tone, and your words?
I'm going to say body language first, tone second, and words third. The words are the least important one.
You nailed it. So it's 55% body language.
55. Wow, yeah. That seems like a big number. Okay.
By the way, this couldn't be better right now, this exercise. So
because I'm leaning forward right now.
There you go. 38% is tone.
Okay.
So when you start the pod like, let's go, come on, and like you're feeling good, the tone's good. I know this pod's going to be good. And it's just 7% words.
Wow. So that should be your mantra going forward. It doesn't really matter what I say as long as I'm enthusiastic about it. Boom. So I've like built myself a career, Terry. It's all fluff and mindless words that I throw out there, but hey, I really mean it, and that's what counts. Who taught you this? Is this what the coaching staff is learning behind the scenes?
Yeah, our academy director is awesome, Anthony Capitosto. We have like coach development days once a week where we bring in specialists in various fields. And about a year ago, Nancy Spottin, who's almost like a coach for coaches and specializes in really understanding what's underneath the hood of a player. And we've continued a relationship. I met with her yesterday, and
cool. So are you going to be able to apply it? Are you going to be mindful, or are you going to be nervous? Like, what are you going to do? I would love to see one of your team talks, by the way. I would love to be a fly on the wall for that.
So it's interesting. I was watching video back, and I record myself every time I speak to the team a lot.
Do you?
Yeah, to just learn and be as efficient as possible, and I guess see what the players' behaviors are like or after, and whether they've picked up the information we're trying to get across. But one thing that's interesting is watching the team talk before we played Montreal on the weekend. I'd say my personality is a little bit more extrovert, not quite on your level, but that kind of can lead to a little bit of an introvert team. So at some point, I actually need to take the reins back a little bit and give a little bit more kind of responsibility or ownership to the team, maybe to the leadership group within the team, so it becomes more of their team and it's not being driven by the coach.
Really interesting.
That's what Nancy sparked.
Because you're right. Every manager has their own personality. Not everyone's Jose Mourinho or Sir Alex. Some are much more cerebral in their approach. And I guess it's just about how, you manifest your personality through, kind of catering to the needs of the players. I find it really interesting because I all the tactics in the world, it's fine. It's interesting stuff. It's compelling. But you need to be able to inspire a group of people and be able to tick the right boxes with some players and then, work another way for others. It's really interesting for me.
Okay, Wheels. Quick question. Are your parents a little bit more introverted or extroverted, if you had to say?
My mother is probably a little bit more extroverted. She's the only person I know that can talk more than me nonstop, all the time. But everything, you get the point. My dad's probably a little bit more introverted.
Big Ian?
Big E.
So it's quite interesting. Science says more times than not, if your parents are a little bit introverted, you'll be an extrovert. And
really?
Yeah, what's also cool is you can actually be an ambivert if you live in the middle. And that type of personality is what can really bring together a changing room, connect introverts and extroverts.
Wow. This is why this is the right podcast for you. You get to hear about your favorite team and you get these life lessons from Terry Dunfield, how to be a proper coach or leader in whatever walk of life you're going about. This is great. I think I've learned more over the last 5 minutes than I've learned all week.
No, we're just really lucky in the academy, and it's cool sharing it, I guess, for everyone that stayed with us through those first 5 minutes.
So what about Shaffelburg? No, we're going to get into that. No, it's great stuff. And I love when you kind of take us into these areas, because it shows you and shows the listener and the people watching on YouTube on their Toronto FC channel, just what goes on behind the scenes. Everything's thought out. There's a process behind everything that happens. So thanks for sharing that. That was excellent. A busy week for Toronto FC, a 2-game week. I guess technically 3, because we haven't chatted since Toronto FC's Canadian Championship win. Thanks again to Javier Perez, the Toronto FC manager, for joining me on the program last week. We did a touchline talk instead of me and Terry going back and forth. That's the first time I've actually had a chance to sit down with the manager, Terry, and just chat with him a little bit and pick his brain. We did it as part of some Hispanic Heritage Month programming that will be coming your way across the various Toronto FC channels. You know Javier more than I do. What did you make of that conversation? Did he impress you as much as he impressed me?
I guess my first meeting, I just felt like a warmth. I just felt at ease talking to him, if that makes sense. It's been difficult to really connect with the first team, with them being away, and then they come back. There's a ton of protocols around the training ground still, where the academy come later in the afternoon, and the first team's there from 8 a.m. till 2. But I reached out to Javi and said, is it cool if I come watch some training sessions? And I think that's important to just learn as a young coach and see the types of exercise he's doing with the first team players. Maybe there's stuff we can pick up with the kids. And it's also a little bit awkward. It's difficult because the team was going through a tough time. And sometimes when you're in a situation like that, managers like to keep their cards close to their chest a little bit. And we hadn't met before. And he replied to my email within minutes and said, "Come on in. You're a club guy. I can't wait to meet you." And watched training. It was great. Picked up some stuff that day that we did in the evening, a type of rondo exercise. And I think he's doing a fantastic job. I think he was dealt, not to point out the obvious, a difficult hand. And I think if you brought in, let's go back to a big extrovert, loud personality that tried to get everything out of the group, I think maybe it just would have imploded. I think he's subtly making changes. He 100% knows the game. I think there's clarity to what we're doing in every moment. And we should probably have more points than what we have. I was just doing a little math. If you look at, maybe Javi objectively, he's had 16 games in charge. We've got 17 points. Our points per game before he took over was around 0.6. He's 1.06. So he's almost doubled our points per game. And I'd say we probably enter Miami at home, Atlanta away, Orlando at home. That's probably another 5 points. That's what the sort of stats or data would say. And that would put us just above the line, just above Montreal points per game if we picked up points there. So I think not only is he a good dude, he's a club guy, he gets it. He's starting to give young players opportunity, but objectively, he's picking up points. The team look organized.
Yeah, he's a wealth of knowledge and experience. He helped write the U.S. soccer curriculum.
Yep.
What's kind of cool is that he's worked on staffs with like some of the biggest names in the game, like Klinsmann, Vieira, Claudio Reyna. Like there's a wealth of experience that he brings to the table here. So although he might have not been a household name when he came to Toronto FC, just in terms of being, front of mind, there's certainly value in what he's bringing to the table. And you mentioned the points and what's happened. We're still going through a stretch where you look at this team and you're like, okay, the injuries have played a massive role in what's transpired. Like Akinola, Altidore, Pozuelo, the MVP of this league has barely played this season. It's a lengthy list, Terry, and it's something to keep in mind when you're evaluating, you're watching this team play. But I want to get into some of the things that we've seen over the last week. 3 entirely different games. Canadian Championship against an inferior opponent against York United. But, we've seen in the game of football today, if Sharif can go to the Bernabeu and beat Real Madrid, you didn't want to take anything for granted. It was, taking place in a torrential downpour as well. Then you had a game against Colorado, an uneventful game. It was actually a very good away performance, connected away performance by Toronto FC. And then a game that had a little bit of everything in a 3-2 victory over FC Cincinnati. I felt like we experienced like 4 seasons in 1 week, basically, just in terms of footballing style, not just the weather.
And you're going across the country, 2 different leagues. It's a tricky week to manage, and to come out of that with 4 points, comprehensive win over York United. It's a nice glass of wine after the game yesterday.
Now, for me, the lead story, and we addressed it on the last podcast, Jacob Shaffelburg is taking over. I reminded last time around, he's still only 21 years of age, but he continues to grow. And his service this week, scored a goal, 2 assists against York United, 2 assists against FC Cincinnati. The confidence is there. The execution is there. It's just a player blossoming, growing in front of our eyes, and a player that's full of confidence right now.
It's so cool. And how good is it when he scores or does something and he just kind of smiles? He's not quite sure how to celebrate. It's so innocent. It's awesome. It's wholesome, which is a breath of fresh air. There's just no attitude there. It just looks like he's enjoying every minute of being a professional footballer. How would you mark Shaffelburg, Wheels, if you were playing against him?
Ooh, I try to keep him in front of me. And I try to make sure that he plays a little bit less direct. That's the way that you try to stop him. In fairness, he has so much pace. Him and Achara have brought something to the table, and they're developing something with Soteldo, who's more of a distributor than a player that will get in and play over the top. I mean, this was what the previous coaching staff was crying out for in terms of the type of player that TFC needed, a player that could stretch the field a little bit more, a player that could play a little bit more direct with pace. And that's what both those players are bringing right now. I think they're carving out some interesting roles going forward for themselves in terms of how this team will play and how they actually fit.
Nailed it. And who else is an important piece for TFC that he's going to play right now? What do you mean? Like in Michael,
the midfield?
And you got to find a way to get Michael Bradley into the team. He's going to play a lot.
Well, right? Yeah, for sure. One of the biggest turnarounds over recent weeks has been this 3-man midfield of Bradley, Osorio, and Delgado. They're playing in a way that they used to, right? Like it's not like Bradley, a million miles up the field, being asked to do too much. The players are all playing within their comfort zone. And the connectiveness inside the midfield are providing a platform for everything else to happen in a positive way for me. That's the biggest turnaround.
Totally. And it works. If it ain't broke, that midfield works. It's like a comfort blanket. And so all the stuff that you just spoke about is what I think Javier Perez is kind of, to steal a line from Josie, has kind of taken into his lab, and he's gone, okay, this is a system we're going to spit out, and it's a nice 4-5-1. It gives Soteldo a little bit less responsibility as a false 9 defensively. You've got Achara, Shaffelburg either side of him, really threatening the depth. You've also got Larea bombing forward from a fullback spot. To really set up space and keep you connected, which suits Michael as well. You're sitting a little bit deeper, which opens up space in transition. And what's cool about Shaff, kind of go to full circle of where we started with this, is as soon as team starts to sit off him, protect the space in behind in that direct play, he's going to find himself with time and space. And what he's added to his game is a final product. If he's got time and space, he's just whipping the heck out of balls into the box. And different types of delivery, where he's hanging up at the back post for big man Soteldo, who almost scored, or it's lasered between the center halves and goalkeepers, just fizzed across the box. So it's I can't remember what game it was. It was 4 or 5 games ago at home, and I just saw that 4-5-1, and I was just like, this is a good fit for us right now. It's a good fit for our team, and hopefully everybody can stay fit.
That's it. I want to get back into that in a moment, but when it comes to Shaffelburg, that was my biggest question about him. It's like he would get behind the man, he would get to the touch line, but there was, I don't know if it was panic, perhaps indecision is a better word, in terms of what kind of ball he was going to play into who. Against York United, his 2 assists, 1 far post to Osorio, 1 near post. That ball on Wednesday night, far post to Marky Delgado, hit with pace, is ridiculous, because it was hit hard enough that the goalkeeper couldn't go out and take it. And it was hit on an absolute rope perfectly to a player on the far post. That is a difficult ball to play. And then finding a Chara as well, instead of taking out, the 3-wood, he took out, the 7-iron and found him in that situation. It's just, he's shown a diversity in the ability to play different types of balls. I was joking around last night. He was like, look at this guy. He's like Leroy Sané now. He's got the pace to get him behind. He's scoring goals and providing quality service as well. I can't say enough about Shaffelburg right now and what he's being able to do. And really, this all came about. Sadly, Sebastian Endo had surgery this week. His season is done. He's going to be out for a few months, but that injury happened, opening up the door for Shaffelburg, and he's blasted his way straight through like the Kool-Aid man. There's no rebuilding that wall. He's there, and you're not taking him out of the team.
The Kool-Aid man. I feel for Endo a bit, because he was doing well, and he played the position a little bit differently. But I agree. I think he's Sané without maybe the attitude too, which is nice. And anytime a TFC player has time and space, he's threatening to get in behind. I think he's playing around with the position and coming right across the field. He's inverting. He's staying wide. He's just testing the thresholds of his game a little bit. And I couldn't agree with you more, man. His cross selection's excellent. And there's now execution to go with it as well.
This is going to be, and I think you touched on it with the 4-5-1 or 4-3-3, whatever you want to call it, the formation now. There's finally balance in this team. Like I felt like over previous months, sometimes you would throw in all this attacking talent. You weren't getting enough support defensively. There wasn't enough shape. I liken it to my other club, Manchester United. It's like football isn't played as a video game or an all-star game anymore, where you can just put on all these great players and hope it works. It needs to be done with purpose. And that's going to be the biggest challenge for Perez or who's ever in charge of this team going forward. Whatever players remain next year, how are you going to play in order to provide the best balance within the group? And Pozuelo is an MVP, a phenomenal player, but he's like an out-and-out number 10, Terry. And there's very few teams that play with that type of player in the game today. Guess what? So does Manchester United, Bruno Fernandes, and it sometimes just takes away from the shape of the team. What are your thoughts on that? How do you incorporate a true build with a team when you have that kind of player? Do you have to completely change your formation to make it work? Like, what do you do here? Because obviously you want Pozuelo playing whenever he's back fit and ready to go. But once you come up with a system or find something that works, it's very hard to incorporate different pieces, which might not be the perfect fit.
Where does your head go?
It's all predicated on your personnel. And this is why whatever happens in the off season, whether it's Perez or whoever the manager will be, they need to work hand in hand with the general manager and the president in order to make sure that players are brought to the club to fit that system. I feel like, it was kind of somewhere in between when the coaching change had happened over the summer, where you brought back the same team, but they're playing in a different way. You know what I mean? So the pieces didn't completely fit. So there needs to be some kind of alignment on how the team needs to be constructed to play to the strengths of however that manager wants to play. And I think that, you need to give them license. It's not as simple as just bringing the best players you can to the club. There needs to be really a serious thought process behind how to build this team from the ground up. I don't know. I'm not sure if that's the answer you're looking for, but I don't think there is any easy answer.
No, it's where my head was going. I don't think it's maybe a detailed solution. I think it's a big picture one.
Yeah.
And I think it stems with almost culture or identity. What's TFC going to look like next year? Are we going to go back to a little bit more to what we saw under Greg Vanny, which is kind of Barca Pep style? We tried to do the Chris Armas way, which maybe didn't work for various reasons, personnel, the league, the travel. Do we kind of go back there? I think Javier is closer to Greg's game model. And then once we kind of know what that identity is, I'm saying what all our listeners know and you do, then I think you need the right pieces for it, the right players for it, the right personalities, the right changing room guys. We've got to get that core back, that core group of 6-7 players, which is so important in MLS. When we won trophies, we had 6 or 7 guys that always play, with MLS experience as well, and DPs that always played. But I think the personnel piece, until you know who 100% your head coach is going to be and what that identity looks like, you can't quite get there. And I think once an analysis or SWOT analysis on the squad is done, there might be some tough conversations. And I think you're now looking at a new 3 to 5 year plan, and it's exciting.
Just on that, Terry, it doesn't mean that these players are bad players. It's nothing like that whatsoever. It's like, who's going to fit? And look, TFC have been playing from a difficult position, not having 3 designated players available to them, like basically at all this season. But at this time, seeing the way that this team's playing right now, if they were fit, would I advocate Soteldo, Pozuelo, and Altidore playing all in the same team? Probably not, to be honest with you, because you're giving up a lot from a defensive perspective. You know what I mean? Like this is what I'm getting at with Shaffelburg and Achara. They might not be on the level of those other 3s in terms of resume or natural born talent or anything like that, but they fit the style of play to a T. And you need to marry those 2 things. And that's inevitably going to be the challenge of the club, is figuring out how that works best and what your identity is actually going to be going forward.
For sure. And they give Soteldo a hand and give him the freedom to go where he wants, where you've got Marky and also to fill in spaces. And I think too, if I'm Josie, Pozuelo, or Soteldo, I want to be happy too. I want to play in a system that suits my strengths as well. And we saw a little bit, the 3 of them up top, and it was tough out of possession. And nobody looked happy, and I don't think you want that.
Yeah. Speaking about happy, Marky Delgado scored a goal. Funny, he scores last night. His previous goal this season was in game number 1 of the regular season against CF Montreal. He mentioned in the build-up to the game that they're back to having fun, something along those lines. We all know how difficult it was playing in Florida, being away from home, going through all these changes, but now there's an acknowledgement that the mood is lighter and they're going out enjoying their football. That's what I see. I mean, Delgado struggled for some weeks over the course of the season. I don't think there's any denying that, considering that we've seen him 218 times now in a Toronto FC uniform. We know what type of player he is and what an excellent team player he's been. We've seen the old Marky Delgado over recent weeks. Over the course of your career, can you kind of reflect back on, times where maybe you weren't happy for whatever reason? It might be on or off the field, and how that would affect the way that you play. Because I think there's something to it, Terry. Like, your mind, you're having fun, your mind's in a good place. It's going to show itself in a much more positive way in terms of your play on the field.
Yeah, I could connect the dot to under Aaron Vinter here at TFC for some of our fans that have been around for a while. We were trying to play total football, and we maybe didn't quite have the quality to do that. And we dominate teams with possession, but we're always one mistake away from conceding. You concede, and everyone gets in their car after the game, and there's a black cloud that just follows you all week until the next game because you want to put things right, and then it happens again. And then Paul Mariner took over, rest his soul. And he just simplified things. We went to almost like an old school English championship 4-4-2 style.
Love it. That's my system right there.
I knew what my role was. It was don't even think about getting the ball off the back four. Be ready for second balls off Kubermans and Ryan Johnson, and will be difficult to break down. And it just brought clarity. I knew exactly what my role was, and we were going okay until Big Coos got injured. But maybe that's a little bit what Marky's talking about. I wouldn't say it looks like fun right now just yet, but I'd say that there's a nice rhythm flow and there's clarity to what the guys are doing.
The reactions after goal, like it just looks like the body language is in a much better place. It sucks when you're losing every week. It sucks when you're going through change or you don't know where you stand. They just look much more comfortable on the field.
And I think Marky's he's been awesome. He was involved in all three goals. It's his little flick when Omar protects the goal that leads to Shaf's goal, the first one. The
counterattack, that was perfect counterattack.
But he like plays out of their counter press.
Yeah.
Nice little flick, which shows that he's playing with a bit of freedom to even try that in your own third. Scores his second. And it was actually him leaving his man to double team off Cincinnati's throw-in that led to the transition moment for the third.
Good shout. Good shout on both. So just wanted to point that out. That's something else that stood out to me. Also, what we've seen over recent games, and I found it interesting when I asked Javier Perez about this, playing younger players, giving some young players a chance. And he said that they need to kind of show it. They need to want to be there. They need to have the right mentality to show that they're ready to play. And I was like, yeah, you just don't hand them time. But now over the last week, we see Noble Okello come on and score in the Canadian Championship. We've seen Jaquil Marshall-Rutty have a couple more appearances. He looks a bigger player. Like he's such a young man, but now he's kind of growing into his body. Looks much more comfortable on the field. Shaffelburg, we've already documented that. You're starting to see some of these young players be amalgamated into the team. I know how near and dear that is to you. Maybe your thoughts on what you've seen from those players over the last week.
I guess big picture comment first is I think every coach wants a nice expected result when you play a player. Some players, you just know what you're going to get from Michael Bradley. And if your job's on the line and you're picking your 11, I think you really want to know what you're going to get from your players or that unit or out on the field. And I think with young players, it's really tricky because, it's difficult to really assess them in a USL game because it's so different to MLS. There's not a ton of training sessions because there's so many games and there's a lot of recovery sessions. So it's tough for young players to really win that trust of a coach. And you almost need to, and I've been wrestling with this for a couple of months, I think just throw them in the deep end. And when the timing's right, just give them a chance to show what they can do. And you know what, I think it's easy to, I don't think you want to evaluate just on 10 minutes. I think it's got to be 5. If you're going to go with it for 5 or 6 games. And I think the player starts to build a little bit of momentum and confidence, and you've now got some clips that you can work with the player on. So my big picture comment is sometimes don't overthink it. If you feel that this player is ready, give them 5 or 6 games. Find a way to make it work and really trust in, we're going to give our academy kids a chance. Number 2, I'd say, it was so cool. So I come in first thing after the York United game two players are out on the field at 9 o'clock training. Noble Okello and Jaquil Marshall-Rutty. They're walking back with balls on their bag, having just put in a shift after the success of the night before. So you're like, okay, that's nice. Well done, boys. So it's, I just think it's got to become, again, this is just Terry talking, but part of the TFC culture that you know what, we trust in our kids. This is where the league's going. I know TFC is a huge club and it's been a tough year, but I'd love, again, this is Terry talking, to see our academy as part of it.
Yeah. I think that those two are now ready. You need to be ready as well. Okello, absolutely ready. I think Marshall-Rutty is showing some glimpses that he's just about ready as well. So good stuff on that front. Anything else that you want to point out? Like, I got to be honest with you. Trying to do the after 90 minutes after the Colorado game was a real challenge because nothing happened. Like there was no chances either way. It was great to see Robin Fraser on the touchline, but Javier, I'm not sure if John Conway was in his ear saying, look, Fraser's going to play this. I don't know what it was, but like they completely nullified each other. There was nothing in it.
You know what's too bad is in any other context of the season, when you're in and around the playoffs, you're like, that's a great point. We went to Colorado in altitude. It's a tough trip. It's on the other side of the continent. After with like sandwiched with midweek games. But when you're chasing points, it's like, oh, we needed a bit more there. But yeah, I agree. One thing I love too is I'm not sure who's running them right now, but our set pieces, you feel like it's an opportunity every time we have them. I know all the fans at BMO Field around me were like, what's he doing when Salgado stood on the ball for a bit? But I think that's what the Cincinnati players, they said, like, what's this guy doing here? And it actually opened up some space at the back post. Great ball from Bradley. But I love our set pieces right now.
Yeah, agreed. But yeah, it was like the Seinfeld game in Colorado. Sorry to go back to that. It was a lot to do about nothing. Like, I didn't even get to see my boy Drew Moore, my boy Stephen Beitashour, your boy Colin Warner, my other boy Clint Irwin. Like, these are all timers, great dudes. Didn't even get to see them play. There was nothing in that game. Perhaps it just gave TFC more of a chance to dry off after that Canadian Championship game. If you were a fan that stayed for the duration, thumbs good for you. You're a proper fan. You're a proper supporter. Well done. If I wasn't stuck in studio at One Soccer doing all the coverage, I would have been out there with you. But a good result. That means that TFC are on to the semifinal of the Canadian Championship, which will be played November 3rd at BMO Field as they welcome in the top of the table side from the Canadian Premier League in Pacific FC. How much more of a difficult game will Pacific give Toronto FC versus York United, who've had a nice season, but they're the fourth place side? I think it's a little bit different when you're playing the first place team who ended up beating an MLS side in Vancouver Whitecaps 4-3 a couple rounds ago.
I think they're the team you don't want to play, straight up. And not just because they're top of the league, just their style of play. And they in the Canadian Championships, I was going to say they upped their level a little bit, but they've been pretty consistent. Their parties continued all year. I think under the leadership of former Portland center back Ka. This is a team that's very much on the front foot. There's a couple TFC Academy players there that are hungry. I think it's nice. I think it's huge advantage that it's at BMO Field. That would have been a tricky trip to Langford to Victoria to go play in their small but awesome stadium that holds 6,000. It sells out. It's turf. You can't fly from Toronto, I believe, to Victoria, so you'd have to fly to Vancouver, take a ferry over, and somewhere in there your head's going off task. But it's going to be good. It's going to be fun. I think they've only got one speed, and that's getting after who they play against. It's going to be an exciting game. But the fact that it's at BMO Field's a big advantage.
A couple of thoughts on that, because there has been people complaining about the coin toss that decided that TFC was going to play at home. Look, there's multiple reasons why it's preferable playing at Toronto FC. One, like, yes, the Pacific, Starlight Stadium, it's wonderful, it's intimate. It provided a real special atmosphere for that tie against the Whitecaps, but they have a stupid hydro pole that's in the way, so the camera angle is garbage. Like, it's so low, and there's nothing they can do until they take out this freaking pole. So I'm just thinking in terms of the national or international audience for the game, it's better at BMO Field. On top of that, I know that if you're the team, if you're Pacific, you might think that you might have some home field advantage playing at home. I still think it's a special experience for young Canadian players, and that's what they largely are on that team, to go on and play in our national stadium, like walking out under the lights. Like, if it always feels like a big deal at BMO. And on top of that, you get to play on grass. So I don't think it's the worst solution. I don't think it's worth complaining about it from any side of the equation. Just it makes sense.
I think, their players, staff, maybe some fans will travel out. I think they'll be excited to come to BMO Field for sure. But speaking as an analyst, I think it's going to be difficult for them to come and win in Toronto.
The other tie is sexy. Tim Hortons Field in Hamilton. Forge takes on CF Montreal, and Forge has brought in a couple new players. They have former TFC player Mo Babuli, former TFC player Kyle Becker, who's having a very good season, and they're going to be a real challenge to CF Montreal in the semifinal stage. They play a couple days before, but again, this competition is huge, not only to win the Voyageurs Cup, which matters, which is a big deal, but this is your way into the CONCACAF Champions League next season as well. And I hope fans come out, pack that place, and create a real atmosphere, which the Canadian Championship absolutely deserves.
The Forge team deserve it. These guys are trailblazing right now. And what stands out about that tie is, when I say trailblazing, they're now in the quarterfinals of the Champions League that's going on.
CONCACAF League. It's like
CONCACAF League, yeah. Sorry. And they're moving forward with that. They're near the top of the league. They've won 2 championships, but they're kind of navigating the CONCACAF League, which is tricky. They've got to stay in the top 4 of the CPL, which equals playoffs, and they're kind of tracking well there. But CF Montreal, their focus, I would have thought, was just staying in and around the playoffs of MLS. But in the last round against Halifax, they played a very strong team. So CF Montreal, they want to win this competition. I feel like just the desire to win the Canadian Championships has never been so high, which should lead to a pretty good tie.
Stakes are high on that. One other story I wanted to deal with, that's obviously coming up at the end of the month. One other story I want to deal with is the announcement was made, this deal between MLS and Liga MX, that a midsummer tournament is going to take place in future seasons, where essentially that the MLS season goes on hold for a month while MLS teams take on Liga MX teams. This is a way to bridge the gap, bring these leagues that much closer together. We saw the Campeones Cup played this week where Columbus beat Cruz Azul. So there's more ties between Liga MX and MLS. I know not every player might be on board, but do you kind of see the framework, what's happening here, that this is probably the way forward to provide greater value to, league, the MLS specifically, which doesn't have promotion relegation. So it provides different incentives with different competitions to keep and maintain fan interest. Do you understand the framework, Terry?
Yeah, I think where my head goes is it's kind of like testing the waters without full committing, and to see how this dating. Pardon me?
Speed dating. Well, I guess now you just swipe.
Oh, gotcha. And yeah, just to sort of see the interest and of how far this relationship can go. I think there's potentially talks of something bigger on the horizon, which could be interesting. I think the golf and quality isn't what it used to be. I think MLS is now competitive. with Liga MX sides, and TFC were a big part of really moving that needle. But if I put my player's hat on, I'd be very excited to host a Liga MX side, or go down into Mexico and play. It's something different. You're testing yourself against a totally different style of play, against an expensive roster, and it's just an opportunity for something new, which is always fun for players.
Is there anything else that you want to address or bring to the table before we look ahead to this weekend?
Just one thing. So Afton and I, my girl, she called a derby, and like I know a lot of people
roller derby,
or like the Kentucky derby. Like it's a derby, and then she'll go, it's spelled derby. Like we spent half the York United game arguing about derby, and I'm just like, I couldn't really explain to her. My only argument was getting mad and saying it's a derby. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
It's like potato, tomato.
Even
no, I don't think either works. It's just, the North American mentality. Some people just don't understand. They'll just read the word.
Eric was calling Eric Giacometti. I love Eric. He's calling it a derby, and I'm just like,
derby.
It's a big derby game against York United, and I'm just like, I love you, Eric, but I won't say anything. But it's grinding on me.
Wayne Rooney is the manager of Derby County.
That too, yeah,
it's a derby.
It's a derby.
I've never heard anyone refer to it as a derby. I'd probably be arguing all game as well.
If I was in my pub in Manchester and I was like, you guys going to watch the derby against Man United, Man City? If I called it Man City, Man United, and didn't call it City United, first of all, I'd get headbutted. Then I get headbutted again for going to the derby. Anyway.
Has this affected your relationship? Do you want to talk about this? No, can you get over it?
Get over it. It's a bit inflexible, but like, it's a derby.
It is a derby. There's no dispute whatsoever. And by the way, I don't think we need to get cute on this in terms of what to call York United, Toronto FC. It's a 416 derby. I don't know. That's where we live. The 416. It's widely known as that. Like, I've heard all these. No, just keep it simple. Like something. Reference points are for the masses, not for the specific. Just because you have some there's a specific train line that no, it's just the 416 derby. So let's just settle on that. TFC take on Chicago on the weekend. It's going to be back-to-back games against the team that replaced their manager. Yap Stam was out of FC Cincinnati. We saw former TFC defender Tyrone Marshall on the touchline for Cincinnati. The one thing that he needs to do, Terry, I'm going to get sidetracked here. If you're going to be a stand-in manager, he needs to dress like one. It was an abomination. I'd say it to his face, even though he's a far bigger man than I. It was good to see him there. Congratulations on the role. He's wearing jeans, a suit jacket, but like a hoodie underneath. That hoodie under the suit jacket look, it didn't look like a proper manager. So I'm going to turn it to you. When you're the big gaff someday, whether it's at TFC or Man City, wherever you're managing, what's your touchline gear? What are you wearing on the touchline? It's so important to your own credibility. Have you thought about this?
It's funny. When I first looked over, I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, he's comfortable. It's his style. What would I do?
What do you do now with the academy kids? Are you just in training gear?
We wear a tracksuit. I've threatened a few times that I'm going to wear a suit, and everyone just rolls their eyeballs. I think I'd love to be Pep or Greg, like that kind of smart casual.
He's too casual.
I don't think that's me. I don't think I'd be Javier and go full tracksuit. Maybe away games. I think I'd be leaning towards maybe not tie, but suit.
Yeah, I think so. All I know is when we showed up to,
what would you wear? What would you go for?
When we showed up at Canada training, before the World Cup qualifiers began, Terry shows up wearing this class suit, good fit, good cut. and all the players and all the staff on Canada, Dunfield looking good. And I know you did it on purpose. You wanted to make a statement that you're a professional to be respected. I think you're a suit guy. I think you're a suit on the touchline guy.
I think I'm Simeone, maybe. Thanks for the compliment. But
suit, no tie. Suit, no tie.
Like, yeah, but not all black. Not like Johnny Cash, but like, yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe a little scarf number in there as well.
Yeah. I'm not sure what I would wear, but I need to bring this up. I find it very funny that head coaches or managers in every sport wear different things, but by far the weirdest is baseball, how they wear an actual uniform. They're wearing a uniform. And so are the first and third base coaches. They're wearing a baseball uniform, but they're not players. It makes no sense to me. And then you look at like hockey, it's like always suit and tie, prim and proper. Basketball, they've gone and like cooled things down a little bit. So they've gone where the polo look is acceptable, but it always used to be, suit. But that's changed. But baseball is the one that I don't get. I don't understand it.
Do we have
a uniform? Imagine Javier Perez on the touchline wearing his TFC kit. I just can't.
And like, isn't the baseball pretty much like chicken wings as well? So yeah, that kit's pretty snug.
No kidding. Maybe it's because like the closest thing to pajamas. And when you're playing baseball every day, you need to be comfortable, like 3.5 hour games. No, NFL football, the coaches love the khakis. They love the khakis and the white shoes. Don't be that guy, Terry.
I got you going here. Hey, we have to bring back the high five. I've enjoyed talking about this here at the end.
Oh, let's do it for next week. We'll bring back the high five, a top 5 list, top 5 well-dressed managers, maybe.
Well, you've just nailed it. We got to go on to something new.
Yeah. Yeah. So sorry about that tangent. Chicago just fired their manager as well. It's crazy. There's been 8 head coaching changes in Major League Soccer in 2021. All 3 Canadian teams have cycled their manager. Crazy. So Chicago actually won on Wednesday and their manager is given the tic tac. So we'll see who's on the touchline on Sunday. You look at Chicago, they're on 27 points, TFC about 5 points back of them. They're a team that's reachable. And what I mean by reachable is TFC are now out of the basement. That's kind of like the next step as you kind of climb out of this. There's 7 games to go in the regular season. What would a respectable finish be, all things considered? Get out of the bottom 5? Is that achievable? Probably, but I'm not sure how much further than that. You just don't want to finish last from the bottom 3, I think. Like, I know that draft picks are on the line, but I think this team is good enough to climb up a few spots.
I think you just keep taking it game by game. It's tough when you're playing against oppositions that have just lost their manager because your scouting goes out the window a little bit. There'll definitely be some changes. Who's ever coming in of 1 or 2 new ideas. But yeah, I just think like carry on this momentum. There was a tough patch in there for a few games, but I think the team's tracking nicely. And as Marky said, they're enjoying their football right now. I think hopefully some of the players that have had a couple of injuries start to come back into the squad at the right time. And it'd be cool to see some academy kids continue to play.
Yeah, I can see very much the same approach from Toronto FC. Shout out to Kamar Lawrence as well, deputizing as a center back last game. Okay. So go ahead.
On that quickly, I was cutting up some tape for academy kids about how to protect the goal and did a little bit of a deep dive into Lawrence. He's a proper defender, man. He's whether it's fullback or center back, he's picked it up quick. His body shape, the spots he's getting to, his extra bit of pace to give Omar a hand. He was phenomenal last night.
Yeah. And he had the moment of the match against Colorado defending on the far post. It's not an easy defensive clearance when Barrios was right there, did really well to get back and steered out of play. So finding some form, it hasn't been an easy year for Kamar Lawrence as well. The game Sunday, 4 p.m. at BMO Field. I hope to see you there. I'm going to present this with no comment. Maybe there will be a little backhanded commentary in it, but there was a lot of reasons why the crowd was thin on Wednesday night. One of them was trying to get to the field from the One Soccer studio in Mississauga was a nightmare because the entire highway was closed down in both directions. Like it was a traffic nightmare. But when I look to this, there's large sections of the stadium that are largely empty. We're still in a pandemic. There's lots of reasons for that. But when I look down into the south end of the stadium, it was a little bit disappointing for me. There's that one section. It's like the former Inebriati. I'm not really quite sure what they're called. They've been there every game, rain or shine. They're wearing all black. They're jumping around, creating an atmosphere. The Red Patch Boys or U sector, those groups that are like just a little bit over, the sections are nearly empty. Those are your hardcore fans. And what I have no idea what the reasons are why people go to games, why they don't go to games. And I'm not in any position to tell anyone how to be a fan. That's up to you. That's personal. There's no attitude, no judgment either way. But what I hope is that those hardcore fans, the fans that the players need so much and are so appreciative of, I hope that they continue to support this team because the group needs you during good times. Absolutely. They need you during bad times as well. And even if you don't like every decision that's being made, with the team or how things like you're supporting the badge, you're supporting the city, you're supporting the team that's, putting it out there on the field in an incredibly different year. I hope that there's some acknowledgement that we in the city aren't fair weather. We need to, fight with this team and be there for this team through it all. I just wanted to put that out there. Again, I'm not telling anyone how to support the team. That's your own business. It's your own money that you're spending out to go on and support it. But they've been so good for so long. And I wanted to leave that out there.
I love that, man. When it gets tough, we need all for one, right? I think there's a bit more to it, and this too, and then so to all our listeners that there's some context to it. The Blue Jays are playing last night. There's been a couple tough nights. It's midweek. There's been some tough weather nights, but I'd say the biggest one maybe is like all of a sudden I get a text from Afton actually, like, get your ass home. The game's at 7. I thought it was 7:30 or 8, and I'd imagine like a 7 o'clock kickoff kind of leads to straight from work, grab a pint, and then get to BMO Field, but with lots of people maybe not in the city or not in Liberty Village or kind of living out, like you're just not in your normal rhythm right now. And that's a little
traffic's a nightmare, dude. The city,
these bike routes,
traffic.
Come on.
Oh, knocking down the lake, not knocking down that Lakeshore extension now takes me an extra 30 minutes almost to get to the game. Like it's over doubled my time. Like I get it. I absolutely get it. Just I've just felt like over, since 2007, there's never been an issue fans in that stadium would always just go the extra mile. And I just hope that isn't dissipating. Because, I think Bill Manning said this, like, even for the team, like your character is revealed during times of adversity. And we all need to stick together right now. I think that's a pretty good way to end.
That's teams playing their part though. The last little while, they're doing all right. It was a good game yesterday.
That Canadian Championship game. I mean, it's going to be huge. So we'll see how that plays out. The game on Sunday, 4 p.m. against Chicago at BMO Field. Hope to see you there. And then we're off to an international break. Canada with 3 difficult games against at Mexico, at Jamaica, at home to Panama at BMO Field on the 13th. So a lot of good stuff coming up. Terry and I will look ahead to the international window next week and break down TFC Chicago as well. Hope to see you next weekend. I might be a father by that time. I'm thinking that it's going to be during one of our broadcasts, Terry. It's going to be like, Osorio scores. Oh my God, the water broke. I'm out. And I just leave you to call the rest of the game. It'll be a great viral moment. And that's what you've always wanted, to push me out of my position so you can take the reins. This is going to be your big shot, big opportunity.
It's all you, Dad.
Get out of the way, Wheeler. And then I just want to hear Dunfield on a solo call. It'll be brilliant.
No.
Is that your worst nightmare? Like you're out of words right now. All you need to remember, Terry, body language, tone, and the words, whatever. Body language and tone. See what I did there? Bought it all around in a full, complete circle. Good stuff this week, T-Dot. Thank you. Thanks to our producer, Erica, as well. And thank you all for tuning in. I am Wheels. Wheels up! This is being Come On You Reds.